I always think you should be able to pick the background music that you walk up on the stage to. I'm not sure I would have chosen that. Good afternoon and welcome. So happy to see so many friends in the room and looking forward to meeting those of you I haven't met. Let me start with a statement, which is that shareholder value isn't everything. That is the first half of a front page headline in the New York Times that ran a few weeks ago. It's actually the second half of that headline that made it so newsworthy. Shareholder value isn't everything, comma, top CEOs say. Top CEOs say, let me put that in context. For decades, shareholder value has been the singular focus for most corporate executives. But now, in a widely discussed statement from the Business Roundtable, which many of you have read and processed, 181 CEOs from America's largest companies, 5 of which I think are represented in this room, 181 of these CEOs embraced a broader view. They essentially said that their responsibilities extend far beyond just to the people who hold their stock, but to their employees, to the communities in which they operate, to their supply chain partners, and to our nation. So I want to suggest that this represents a profound change, represents a profound change in philosophy, if not entirely yet in practice. And it's an acknowledgement by the companies themselves, that they have a very big role to play in helping begin to solve some of our most intractable problems. So whatever you thought of the statement, and I want to say we're not here to debate it, whatever you thought of it, it's hard to argue with the realities of the forces that prompted it. And that's rising inequality and political dysfunction, the Me Too movement, the fact that technology is changing much of how the world works at a pace faster than people or than policies can keep up. And it even gets at the idea of evolving consumer expectations of companies around who their leaders are, how they lead, and how they express their values. So these are all forces that demand some kind of change to the status quo, and that's what we're here today in the name of doing, to begin to talk about how not just words, but action can bring change to the status quo. And I want to say we are particularly here in our nation's capital because real progress requires collaboration. It requires collaboration between the public and the private sector, and it also requires collaboration across the political aisles. So I want to formally welcome you to our inaugural DealBook Strategy Forum in Washington. As you look around the room, I'm guessing some of you know one another, but I want to say this is intimate by design. Andrew has invited each one of you to be here, and about half a dozen of our journalists from the New York Times to deliberately come together in small groups and begin to grapple with half a dozen of the biggest problems of our time. So lest you think that this is just about great conversation that you can go home and sort of extend to whoever you see after the forum tonight, I want to tell you that the conclusions that you and your fellow task force members reach today will be published in the Times. I've been asked to tell you when, so you don't have to look at the paper every day and hope it's there. I think September 19th we'll run a special section that expresses all that comes out of today. And I'm also happy to say that our journalists are here to think about what's said and sort of process it as they think about covering these issues going forward. So the conclusions are a big part of today. And as you huddle with all of the remarkable other people here in the room, I expect that you'll find what those of us who have been supporting Andrew in the planning of this has found, that there is a ton of fresh momentum here to solve some of our biggest problems. So I want to say that today's event wouldn't have been possible without the generous and unrelenting support from our presenting sponsor, Citi. I want to ask my friend, my fellow Aspen Institute fellow, Henry Crown fellow, Carla Hassan from Citi to come to the stage and say a few words. As she's coming up, I want to say a couple of things. Carla's the Chief Brand Officer of Citi, and I have been at the Times, she's here with a few colleagues from Citi. I've been at the Times for half a dozen years, and I can say on a personal note that I don't know of a partner that has been more supportive of quality original independent journalism broadly and in the Times, so thank you for that. And Citi is particularly supportive of forums like this, where we bring together people to do more than words and begin to inspire progress and action. So Carla, over to you.
Thank you.